Hi, Joe Bonnier for FastPitchPower.com. In my video this week, I'm going to follow up Carly's post from Monday on what causes things to go wrong during the drive-through phase for windmill softball pitchers. For fitness professionals who might be watching who aren't familiar with softball pitching mechanics, I'm going to briefly review, giving you a very rudimentary explanation, but hopefully giving you some language to communicate and relate to what your athletes are having to improve. Okay, the drive-through phase of the pitching sequence is really everything that includes their initial push, the pitcher's initial push away from the pitching rubber, including stride foot contact up to about 12 o'clock arm position. Okay, that's what we'll include for now, right? Because what we're really looking at here are two critical capacities, all right, both of which Carly has explained. One is, and especially it's very much obvious when you look at higher level pitchers versus lower level or beginner pitchers, or pitchers who throw hard or pitchers who don't throw hard, pitchers with efficient tracking and end game mechanics, pitchers who don't have efficient tracking and end game mechanics. Okay, that's pretty much what happens up to release and then after release. Okay, is one, your ability to get full extension from the drive leg. That means at the hip, the knee, the ankle, all the way through the toes, to fully extend, boom, keeping my hip, knee, ankle, toes pointed toward home plate. But at the same time, and here's the critical difference between those higher level and lower level pitchers, is to get that extension, meanwhile, have already begun to organize or track my upper body in a position to ultimately release the ball effectively and correctly. Let's talk about what I'll call essential and non-essential pitching mechanics. Okay? And all mechanics are essential. However, hopefully you follow along here. As a pitcher, I can still get the job done without extending through my back leg. Okay, whether a pitcher extends through their back leg or not does not really determine how accurate or how effective I can be. Really, okay, it just really ultimately determines velocity. Now, however, if I don't organize my body or my torso in a position to get my arm in a good path to deliver the ball, all right, I have no chance. I can't just keep my upper body forward. Again, I'm giving non-softball people or fitness professionals here a very rudimentary explanation of why pitchers end up in positions the way they do. Okay, it's because I really don't have to push as hard as is absolutely possible. I don't have to sprint or leap away from the pitching rubber. Okay, all right. However, I have to organize my body in a good position, ultimately, to get that arm in a good place to deliver the ball. Have to. All right? So what do young girls focus on the most? They focus on the tracking. They focus on the organization of the torso. All right? Plus, they're probably not that strong. So you end up with a pitcher who's not strong enough to really get their hips out in front of them, launch their body away. They kind of just walk away from the pitching rubber, end up in this position. They know they have to organize their body, and all of a sudden everything turns as one piece. And in athletes who are really weak, they actually fall back on this back leg, and this back leg becomes an anchor. Boom! And they're here. Okay? Instead of leaping, instead of getting their hips, exploding their hips out in front of them, getting their torso nice and vertical, okay, at stride foot contact in this position, where I've organized my body already, following full extension out of the back leg to get my body in a good position to deliver the ball with maximal velocity and accuracy. That's the difference. Okay? The ability to separate the upper body and the lower body. And as fitness professionals, what do we know that as? Core stability. Okay? Core stability, really, by contemporary definition, is the ability of the torso musculature to really allow the upper body and lower body to work independently and together at the same time, to disassociate and reassociate. All right? You see this not only in softball pitchers, you see this in hitters, you see this in golfers, you see this in track athletes and sprinters. Okay? The ability to move my upper body and my lower body independently is what creates a big stretch across my torso muscles, contributes to improved velocity, but in something like softball pitching, it also contributes to mechanics, right, at the highest level. So, why can't your daughter, all right, get full extension away from the rubber and separate her body early enough, right, to exhaust extension, exhaust horsepower, and get her arm in a good position to deliver the ball with maximal velocity and optimal control? Okay, Talked about in the past, one thing, she just might not be strong enough. Okay, so she kind of walks away from the pitching rubber and ends up falling back all as one piece because she thinks she has to get her body in this position to deliver the ball accurately. Okay, or she's flat out not strong enough in her lower trunk and hips. All right, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to hopefully give you an example now, or an analogy why. I talk technically sometimes, too technically on these videos. Right, when I deal with athletes on a daily basis, I have to get very elementary. Right, and this is why it happens. I have a jar of peanut butter here, and I'm going to use this as an example. You have to imagine this peanut butter as your torso. Okay? We have upper torso, the lid, and we have the lower torso. Okay, skeleton, and we're talking skeleton here. Lower torso is like the jar. Okay? So structurally, anatomically, my skeleton allows me to rotate the top. Okay? But if I want to rotate the top of the torso here, what also do I have to be doing here? I have to grip the jar or the lower torso nice and tight to be able to be strong enough to create enough force to separate the two. So I have muscles that twist, I have muscles that stabilize. It doesn't matter how well this is able to move if I don't have this lower core musculature to secure the lower half. All right? If this is weak, my hand is broken. Okay? Everything moves together as one piece. I have to stabilize that lower core and unscrew the top or separate the top. Okay? So now I'm a big jar of Skippy peanut butter and I'm flying toward home plate and I have a weak lower core. What happens? Everything flies open at the same time because I can't dissociate. Now, okay, imagine all these muscles are nice and tight and strong and stable. Okay? It allows me to use these muscles that are going to contribute to this rotation or separation. I explode away from the pitching rubber, and now I can separate. I can get my position, again, a good position where I've extended all the way through my back leg and spun and tracked effectively. All right, again, exhausting, maximal extension out of the back leg, which is going to contribute to velocity. Meanwhile, organizing my body early enough to get in a good position to have optimal control. How do we work on that? Well, we first have to work on stability of those lower or the core musculature. Right? So planks and side planks. Okay? The ability to just brace everything up comes first. Then we add movement. Okay? We make these exercises more dynamic and sport specific. So before I go any further, if front planks, side planks, hip bridges aren't part of your program, you have no business making your program more advanced or more sport specific. I've already included those exercises in previous videos and your 2014 off-season program. That's why they're there. This hand, go back to the Skippy jar analogy. This hand has to be strong first. We have to work on the general capacity of these hands to secure that lower core, that torso, before we work on doing both at the same time. Okay? This is like working on basic mathematics before you progress to algebra and calculus. You work on one thing at a time, not everything. Right? But beyond front planks and beyond side planks and all those other core stability exercises, we add movement and things become more specific. Right? How are we going to do that? I'm going to start on my knees here with this Cook band. It can be any elastic band, but we offer these Cook bands through our store on the Fast Pitch Power website. Again, look for Cook band. You're going to look for light resistance. All right? Purple is the lightest. That's what you start with. Okay? And again, beyond front planks and side planks, which are on the floor, okay, we move into more sport-specific postures. And okay, we break down, we regress from a sport-specific position like pitching all the way to the floor by working in kneeling positions. Okay, which functionally just makes our legs shorter, brings down our center of gravity, makes them easier before getting into sport-specific positions. In these exercises, what I'm working on is now that I've built up some general stability in my core and my abs, all right, using planks and side planks and those exercises, which I've showed you a million times, I'm going to challenge the stability of those motions while I try to separate my upper body, all right, with the elastic band or against the elastic band of resistance. I call these in the gym, band rotations, chops or lifts, depending on the angle of the movement. Right? In this exercise, okay, what the goal is here is to keep my hips extended, so a nice straight line from my shoulders through my hips and knees. okay, which is just an elementary position or a basic position before I get here onto a kneeling position and then here on one leg. I need to create this straight line. So again, I'm going to back engineer to a two-knee position. Okay? And I'm going to take the band. Now, it doesn't matter what the height is for now, okay, as far as the attachment is concerned. Keeping my arms straight, I'm just going to rotate my shoulders away from the attachment of the band. I'm not just moving my arms this way with no rotation of the upper body. That's what's important. Separation of the upper body away from the lower body. So if I had headlights coming out of my hip flexors or out of my pockets, they would be shining forward. Okay? If I have headlights coming from my shoulders, they're going to rotate away from my hips. Again, that's the critical capacity here that we're eventually trying to work on eventually into a sport-specific position. Two knees, okay, tall kneeling, arms out straight, lift up and across, peel your shoulders away from your hips, okay, holding on with two hands. 10 to 15 reps. Stay nice and tall, because what don't we want to do in pitching, okay, is extend here, okay, through our lower back. We want to stay nice and tall. Coach Phil Carley referred to it as vertically stacked. It's the same thing. Core stability is a vertically stacked position in motion. Okay. From two knees, hopefully you'll start to see the similarities in pitching now. Again, this one knee position, which is really representative of pretty much a stride. It's pretty close to stride position. All right, I am pushing into the ground through my back toes. That's going to kick in your glutes, okay, and help integrate this core teamwork as well on top of an extended back hip, which is what we need during the pitching sequence. I need to get full extension first, remember? I need to push away as hard as I can to get maximal velocity. Right? Working on achieving that extension and then separating the upper body away from the lower body. Okay? So I extend, push into my back toes, kick on this glute, and do the same thing. Peel my upper body away from my lower body. Here. Again, all I'm really doing is peeling away with this in this half kneeling position. From tall kneeling, half kneeling, I move to standing. You do not get too specific too soon. Please follow this progression. Okay, standing. Here, same thing. Tall torso, abs engaged, everything in a straight line, head through my hips. Okay, here, peel away. Belly button stays straight ahead. Hip flexors or hips or pockets are straight ahead. I'm peeling my shoulders away from my hips. Straight arms. Arms get longer away from my body. And finally, we get into a split stance position. This is a short stride. Split stance is short stride. It's not long stride yet. Okay. Split stance. Here. Again, hip flexors, hips, pockets, belly button, straight ahead. Peeling my upper body away from my lower body. If I haven't made it very clear, you're going to feel this a ton in your abs. Okay? And finally, okay, lunge or stride position here. Okay, which is just pretty much I'm still putting, it's the same principles apply. Vertically stacked position from my head all the way down through my hips. I'm pushing in the back, into the back toes to engage the glute. You'll feel this muscle stretch. You'll feel this muscle kick on. Again, trying to resemble what we're working on in our stride. Full extension away from the pitching rubber. All right, separating our upper body away from our lower body. Here, lunge stance, up and away. Peeling, again, the upper body away from the lower body. Hips, belly button, stay straight ahead. 5, 8, 10, 15 reps at a time. Okay. As a workout, you've got to do both sides. And you have to do both sides for structural balance and strength, balance of strength. But doing it on your weak side will also help you learn much better how to improve your strong side. Because on your stronger side, you fall into kind of compensatory habits. On your weak side, you have to really, like, from the ground up, teach yourself or reteach yourself those mechanics. That thought process will help relearn or re-engineer the proper mechanics on your stronger side. All right. As a workout, throw these into your workouts that I've already prescribed. Get a Cook band from our store. Start with purple. Start with a light band. You can attach it to anything that's secure. 3 to 4 sets, 5, 8, 10, 15 repetitions, depending on what you can handle. You're going to start on 2 knees first. 3 to 4 weeks, 1 to 2 months, you're going to move up to a half kneeling position. 1 to 2 months, standing position, short stride position, lunge, or long stride position. Again, 1 to 2 months at a time, 2 to 3 times a week in your workouts or at home. Very inexpensive tool, space efficient, travel friendly. You can do these, pitching instructors, you can do these before or after your pitching lessons to reinforce good physical capacities. And it's the same mechanics that we're working on during our lessons. This is proper core training. This is why we don't do any sit-ups or crunches. Right? This is teaching your body to get stronger, but to do so in a way that transfers to the field.